Okay, today's Torah portion, as you can see on the screen, is Vayakel. And the white letter is what letter? The Vav. Okay, that's why it's the letter V, and Vav means and. See, there's like three words within this one word. And this is, and he assembled, and the black letters are Kahal. And what are they doing? They are assembling the tabernacle. And so here, after the golden calf episode, Moses heads back up to the mountain to make atonement. We find out Israel is forgiven. And so now Moses comes back down. What day on the biblical calendar does Moses come down with the two new tablets? Oh, he goes up on Rosh Hashanah. Well, he's up there from first of Elul for 40 days. Wrong season. He made atonement. Let me help. Yom Kippur. Yeah, he just got done making atonement, and he comes down on Yom Kippur with a pattern to build the tabernacles, and 5 days later is the Feast of Tabernacles. So I want you to see the pattern. So he comes down on Yom Kippur, letting them know they're forgiven. He has the plan to build the tabernacles. 5 days later, they all bring everything freely and willingly to build the tabernacle. So Moses, and basically kahal means to assemble. So what does he do? He assembles the people so they can assemble the tabernacle. Okay. Now, we see in Exodus 35:1, the first verse of our Torah portion on your notes, Moses assembled all the congregation of the children of Israel and says, this is what the Lord has commanded that you should do. Now, what's important is who you remember in the book of Hebrews, in chapter 10, 24 through 25, it says, now let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but exhort one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. How many of you see the day approaching? This is why we need to assemble together. Even if it's online, that's okay, but we need to assemble and stay assembled. You know, I can't help but think, I just thought of something. You see those guys that build a house of cards and someone touches something and they all fall down again or whatever it is? We have to stay assembled. You know, what's that game? It's a wooden thing and you pull out pegs. Jenga. Yeah. The problem is we're all fit together. If someone starts pulling themselves out of the Jenga, pretty soon the whole thing is going to tumble. This is why we have to stay assembled. Now in Exodus 35, it says 6 days is when you get your work done. But on the seventh day, it's to be a Sabbath of solemn rest to the Lord. You know what's interesting about that? A lot of people, they see Saturday as just a break in the work week, or Sunday. It's just a break in the work week, and then it's back to work again. And back to work is the main focus. The main focus is work. And then I get a break. Well, actually, biblically, the days of the week, they don't have names. The name is the seventh day toward the Shabbat, or the sixth day toward the Shabbat, or the fifth. The focus is always the Shabbat. The whole work week really is not to be focusing on the work week. Every day tells you to focus on the day of rest. Okay, so, I have here that they would say the first day of the week toward Shabbat, or the second day. And so what's important is the Sabbath is not a break from the all-important work week. It's the goal. The Sabbath is the priority. It's the goal of every week. It's what every day is pointing to. And this way, there's a constant reminder of the centrality of the Sabbath, and we can eagerly await its arrival. There are mistranslations in the New Testament, I am sorry to tell you. And here's one obvious one. In Romans 10:4, it says, Christ is the end of the law. Do you know what the translation should read? It's the goal of the law. It is the goal of the law. Let me give you an example here in just a minute. If you look at Exodus 35, 4 and 5, Moses tells all the congregation of Israel, this is what the Lord's commanded. Take from among you a contribution to the Lord, whoever is what? A generous heart. Let him bring it, gold, silver, and bronze. God did not tax the people to build the tabernacle. He said, open up your hearts. Whatever you want to do, do. And then look at Exodus 35:10. Every wise-hearted among you will come and make all that the Lord has commanded. So the Lord commanded something to be done, but he didn't require anything. He said, whatever you want to do is up to you. Well, look at verse 20 through 22. It says, so everybody left the presence of Moses, and they came, everyone whose heart stirred him up, and everyone in whom his spirit made willing. And then they brought the Lord's offering to do the work of the tabernacle for all the service, the holy garments. And then it says they came both men and women, as many as were willing-hearted. And they brought all kinds of bracelets, earrings, tablets, jewels of gold, everyone that offered offering of gold to the Lord. Where did the Jewish people get all of that gold and silver? The Egyptians. It didn't cost them a thing. It's like, wow, we earned all this hard-earned money. I've got God says, here's all the gold and silver and the brass. Now, if any of you want to return some of it to help build a house for all of us to live together, I'll leave it up to you. Wow. God is the one who gave him everything. So, I mean, this is really fascinating. So our resting with God is more important than our working for God. Did you hear that? What connection is there between the Sabbath? You know, when you read this verse, he starts with make sure you rest. And then he says, get to work. Well, isn't that interesting? In other words, God considers our resting with him more important than our working for him. Why do you think that is? If you're with him, you're building a relationship. Yeah, I mean, you can be doing all kinds of work. How many of you work for your employer, but you don't love them? Okay. Well, guess what? But it's important. It's all about relationship. And if you have a good relationship, man, you'll go over and above what's required, right? And so this is what it is. And that's what God's saying it's all about. Now, one of the other interesting things, in Genesis 1, it's all about God creating a wonderful place for us. This is about us creating a wonderful place for him. God had to create a universe that we could physically live in. We couldn't all live underwater, okay? He had to create a place where we could have some air, okay? Well, God is saying, now guess what? I want you to create a place for me. Now, how many of you have ever had a grandchild or a child color the most wonderful picture for you all the way outside of the lines, and you put it on the refrigerator, and you want everyone to see how great your grandchild or child is, okay? Well, what's amazing to me about all of this, do you know, when you look at God and creation, there's only a few verses about God and how he created the whole universe, but then he has like 4 chapters about what his kids did for him. God is more concerned and wants everybody to know, look what my kids did for me. They built this beautiful tabernacle and all this. But he's not egotistical, saying, look, I am God, and I have all of these verses explaining how I created everything. No, not at all. The verses concerning creations of heaven and earth is only 31 verses. And that's it. But there's chapters and chapters and chapters of what we've done. Now, as the spirit of giving literally speaks of lifting the people up and inspired them to give and to do, well, not only of their possessions, but what else did they give? Their time, their skills, their labor. And look at this, Exodus 35, 25, and 26. There were a whole lot of women who were also wise-hearted. And they did all kind of spinning. Okay, there's women whose heart stirred them up. And then in verse 29, again, all the men and the women, the people of Israel, whose heart moved them to bring anything for the work that the Lord commanded to be done, brought it as what kind of an offering? It's just, hey, look at everybody. Matter of fact, Moses had to tell people to quit it. Quit it. That's enough. Too much. In 30 and 31, Moses says to the children of Israel, see, the Lord has called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the Spirit of God. God filled him with the Spirit of God. So God is not looking for talented people. He's looking for people who has a willing heart, and that he'll give them everything they need. Wisdom and understanding and knowledge and all manner of workmanship. And this is what important to realize too. They were filled with the Spirit in the Torah. A lot of Christians think they weren't filled with the Spirit in the Old Testament. Not. Okay. What does Bezaleel's name mean? Does anyone know what his name means? The shadow of God. In the shadow of God. What's interesting is his full genealogy is in the shadow of God. He's called the son of light, the son of white. When you look at Uri and Hur, that's his really name. Now, let me go here for a second. Here you see Moses' tabernacle. It's going to be built. I don't think they had these back then, but I created it for you. But God wanted people who had what kind of a heart? A willing heart. Peoples in whose heart stirred them up. They were wise-hearted. They were generous. And they were willing. That's what God did. And then they went to work building the tabernacle. Now, look at this. This is the word Betzal, and I want you to notice, clear back in Genesis 1. We're talking the creation. It says, God said, let us make man in our image, and it's Betzalmenu. The very word, when God said to make us in his image, that means in his shadow. We are the shadow of God. Think about that. We're the shadow of God. It says after our likeness. And then the next verse, so God created man in his own image, in the image of God. Twice it is telling us that Betzal, the Beit Sade Lamed, is image. But look at Psalm 91:1. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, who abides under the shadow of the Almighty. The word shadow is the same word. So, being in the image of God means you are God's shadow. Now, think about this for a minute. Who can tell me what that is? It's amazing what a shadow can do. Okay, what is this? Okay, how about this is a tough one? What is this one? No. You're the images of God. Those aren't the people, that's the shadow. You follow me? You're not. These are not people, these are the shadow of you, which means you are the image of God. That's what he created you as. Shadows are so important. Okay? Here you have an eclipse, and there's the shadow that hits part of the earth. And you can draw all kinds of scientific, astronomical things about this. All right? That's why shadows are so important. Let me go here. Now, with that in mind, think of this. In Colossians, this is such another misinterpreted verse in the Bible. Chapter 2, verse 16 and 17, it says, let no one judge you in your eating or drinking or with respect of a feast day or a new moon or a Sabbath day. These are what? A shadow of what's to come. And then that word but there should be crossed out. That was added. It says the body is Messiah. In other words, what these are saying, why would you want to forget or forsake the feast day, new moon, Sabbath days? Because they are shadows of what's coming. Wow. And guess what? You wouldn't know the difference between the plane and the hot air balloon if you hadn't seen the shadow. So people say, oh, shadows are insignificant. Who cares? You're a shadow, for heaven's sake. Now, when it comes to the other verse that said Torah is the end of the law, well, have you ever heard of an end zone? The end zone doesn't mean stop. It means that's the goal line, for heaven's sake. So what this is saying is it's not the end of the law. It's the goal. It's where we're headed. Just like you have people and they're playing football and where are they trying to get? They're trying to get to the goal line. And the goal line is the Messiah. Why do you think the devil wants us to not understand the shadows? God sends signs. Solar eclipses cast a shadow. The Moedim, or the festivals, are heavenly time markers totally based on the sun and the moon. By definition, they are appointed times for events that are foreshadowing what is coming. This is why what I talked about last week, I'm trying to just tell you, I'm not a prophet, but I can read the signs. I know how many of you know it's important to read the signs? Let me give you an example. How many of you like baseball? If you're the catcher, you're giving signs of what the pitcher's supposed to do. Fastball, curveball, whatever. Well, guess what? The pitcher and the catcher communicate. So they know, what good does it do if the pitcher and the catcher don't agree on the signs? Well, much of the church is making up the rapture, or they're looking for all these signs, but they don't have the connection. I totally believe in resurrection of the dead, guys. I just don't put the timing in there. But we have to know the signs. And that's what it's all about. Okay. Look at this. In John 1:9, referring to Yeshua, he is the true light which lights everyone who comes into the world. How many of you know to cast a shadow, you have to have a light? He's the light that casts the shadow. All right. So, like I said in Romans 10:4, it's not the end of the law, it's the goal of the law. Now let's look at Exodus 35, 34 through 35. It says, God has put in the heart that he may teach, both he and Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach of the tribe of Dan, and also them he's filled with wisdom of heart to do all manner of work. You know, the Sabbath is the goal of every week. So every Sabbath we've scored another touchdown. Think of it that way. Okay, Oholiab means the tent of his father. And so we see in Exodus 36, 1 and 2, then worked Bezaleel and Aholiab, every wise-hearted man in whom the Lord put the wisdom and understanding to know how to work all manner of work for the service, according to the Lord commanded. And then it says, Moses called them and every wise-hearted man whose heart the Lord had put wisdom, and everyone whose heart stirred him up to come to the work. Wow, the Lord will put the wisdom in the hearts of those who are willing to do the work. And then we find in chapter 36, verse 5 through 8, they spoke to Moses, and look what they said. The people are bringing way too much, more than enough for the service, which the Lord commanded to make. And so Moses gave another commandment and caused it to be proclaimed throughout all the camp, saying, let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. Quit it. Stop bringing the offerings. Enough is enough. And the people, literally, it says, were restrained from bringing. For the stuff they had was sufficient for all the work to make it, and even too much. And every wise-hearted person among them worked the work of the tabernacle, and they made all these curtains and things like that. Do you see the contrast to Solomon's temple? Solomon had to tax everybody, and Solomon made life miserable for everybody. Okay, when you want to see the difference between those two. Why do you think the people assembled together to assemble the tabernacle was to bring God's glory from heaven to earth? That was the whole purpose. How many people, okay, men, I'll talk to you first. Especially you guys that know what you're doing. How many of you read the instructions first? How many of you read the instructions first? That is the big question. Okay. Or do you just kind of follow up and all of a sudden things are going haywire a little? Let me go back and check that, Well, here while Moses was on the mount the first time, the children of Israel didn't want to wait for the instructions. So they built a golden calf. They built what they thought would be acceptable rather than waiting for God's instruction or Torah to bring the definition of how God actually wanted it to be done. Religion without Torah only leads to paganism and idolatry. Whoa! You're doing it without the instructions. You're doing what you think works. God's Torah must give the definition and holds the instruction on how God wants us to draw close. I'll give you another example of how crazy some theologians are. Exodus 37, 3 through 5, they're making the Ark of the Covenant to be set by the four corners of it, even 2 rings upon one side and 2 rings upon the other side. And he made staves of shittim wood and overlaid them with gold, and he put the staves into the rings by the sides. So why in the world does everyone make the stupid thing? The staves aren't on the front. It just says the staves go on the side. It's supposed to look like that. Every single work of art is completely wrong. Very few understand how it was supposed to be done. The rings, it says, are on the sides. They're not in the front. As a matter of fact, let me see if I put this verse in here. Yeah. Okay, look at 1 Kings 8, 6, and 7. The priests brought in the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord to its place in the inner sanctuary of the temple, the most holy place, under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread their 2 wings over the place of the Ark, and the cherubim overshadowed the Ark and its poles. Now look at the next verse. They drew out the staves, that the ends of the staves were seen out in the holy place. In other words, they could see right here and here the staves because they were going this direction. That would not happen if they were going horizontally. Not only that, here's like a map. See, again, that's how they were. They went out toward the curtain. Now, tell me this. Let me go here so everyone online can see it. Okay, if you have the staves going this direction, you can't get them out. You got to drag the whole thing out. But if they were going the other direction, you just simply pull them out. You go behind it, you can put them in, you pick them up and carry it. I mean, it is so dumb. But everyone thinks that it went that way. Danny and I created this one just to give an idea. It's through AI, but that is the direction of the poles. So I just wanted people to understand that. Okay, now look at Exodus 38, 8. The laver was made of brass, and the foot of it of brass. And look at this. It came from the looking glasses of the women assembling, which assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. They had mirrors back then, believe it or not. The Egyptian women used them to make sure they looked beautiful for their husbands. Well, they took these mirrors, and from that is how they made the laver. So you have it made of mirrors, and then the water itself was a mirror. So whenever you looked at it, you would see if you needed to clean your face or whatever. Okay? Now look at Exodus 38, 25 through 26. This is really crazy. It says the silver of those who were numbered of the congregation was 100 talents, 1,775 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary. And then it says a bekah a head. Now, do you remember what a bekah is? A bekah equals 1/2 a shekel. Okay? Now, watch as this unfolds. Do you know what the word for head is there? It says a bekah a head. Anyone know what the Hebrew word for head is? Gulgalet, where we get the word Golgotha from. Golgotha means a head. All right? Well, there's something you're going to see that is very amazing here. And then it says the word bekah means more than 1/2 a shekel. It means to break. You break something in half. So it's not like one coin that says 1/2 a shekel. It's like you take something, you break it in half. So here you have the concept of someone who was broken at Golgotha that is going to make atonement. Wow. Okay. Do you know that word bekah in Hebrew only appears twice in the whole Torah? It only appears twice. Whenever in Hebrew you have a word that appears once or twice, that means there's significance here. What's going on? Okay. Well, look at Genesis 24:22. It says, it came to pass, this is Rebekah, which he's going to, wants to come marry Isaac. It says, it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that Eliezer took a golden earring of 1/2 a shekel, and the word there is bekah, and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels of weight. I can't help but think of the 10 Commandments, which were broken. Okay. And what's interesting, here in Genesis, it's the gift of the groom to the bride was a bekah. And now in Exodus, it's a gift of the bride to the groom of a bekah. So he gives gold, she gives silver. They both have half, and they come together. So what do we find? Here we find at the building of the tabernacle, the bride gives a 1/2 a shekel. But earlier, the other one gave a 1/2 a shekel of a golden earring. And we see it is for the one who died from a broken heart that he gave for his bride at Golgotha. These are connections you're not going to see normally. With that said, let's stand and we'll take a break. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we just thank you so much for everything you're doing in all of our lives. And I just pray right now, Lord, that you would bless those who of a willing heart. Father, as you know, in the last 25 years, I've never passed a basket here at El Shaddai. We just want those who from their heart willingly want to offer to build your kingdom. We want to just magnify the Torah, make it honorable. And we're here not to build us. We're here to build your kingdom here on earth. And we thank you for all those who purpose in their heart to willing to do that as well. In Yeshua's name, amen. Together, blessed are you, Lord our God, creator and king of the universe. You have blessed us with your Torah of truth. You have blessed us with the whole counsel of your living word by the power of your Holy Spirit through the completed work of Messiah Yeshua. You alone have planted among us life eternal. Blessed are you, Lord our God. Amen. Take a break. And now we are going to go back into, I have studying the Torah, but we're in Kings because Torah does not mean law. It's wrongly translated. It means instruction. So we're going to look and see what God is instructing us. When we read the Torah, we got to think of what is God trying to tell me. We don't just read the facts, read the history. What do we get out of this? So we're going to begin with 2 Chronicles 25:27. It says, now after the time that Amaziah, he turned away from following the Lord. And so what happens? They make a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem. he fled to Lachish, but then they sent to Lachish after him, and they slew him there. So here the people of Judah killed the king, and they put his son instead. They brought him on horses, buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my slide here. Okay, here is Amaziah that we were just talking about right there. He was 25 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 29 years, and it was like right after that, Elisha dies. Right after he becomes king, Elisha dies. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. And then we're going to find after him, way down here at the bottom, the son of his they put in charge is Azariah, who's also known as Uzziah. Now, many of you probably remember Uzziah, and he reigns for 52 years. Now, what's fascinating, in 2 Kings 15, 1 and 2, it says, in the 27th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, began Uzziah, the son of Amaziah, king of Judah, to reign, and he reigned he was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years. So that is why that you see right here, he is 16 years old, and he reigns 52 years. So this is going to be in my new timeline book that's coming out. You can follow everything along. Okay, so now let's go to 2 Kings 15. And look at verse 3 through 5. We see he did that which is right in the sight of the Lord. Now, I'm going to read this real slow because it's mind-blowing. Watch. Did he do that which was right in the sight of the Lord? Is that what it says? Okay. According to all his father Amaziah had done, except the high places weren't removed, and the people sanctified and burnt incense still on the high places, and the Lord smote the king, so he was a leper until the day of his death. Wait a minute. I thought he does that which is right in the sight of the Lord. How come all of a sudden God smites him with leprosy? Does anybody know why? Let's look at what the Bible says. Okay, we're going to go there. 2 Chronicles, let's jump over there, verse 8 and 9. Here the Ammonites gave gifts to Uzziah. His name spread abroad even to the entering into Egypt. So everybody knew about this king. And what did he do? He strengthened himself exceedingly. Look at this. He even built towers in Jerusalem, and he fortified them. So he's like a builder, and he's strong. Look at verse 11. Moreover, Uzziah had a host of fighting men. So this is the king who has power. He has mighty men around him. He's a builder. And then look at this. In 26:14, Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the host shields and spears and helmets and habergeons and bows and what else? Slings to cast stones. Here it is, right there. Yeah, I'm going to have them cast a little stone for you here. They're going to watch it. They're got a fire right in the middle and watch it go. And they go, boom. He's the one who invented that. Uzziah is the one who invented the slinging stones. And then look at the next verse. He made in Jerusalem engines invented by cunning men to be on the towers and on the bulwarks to shoot arrows and great stones. Well, guess what? He also had these. So he also created things that would shoot the arrows. Let's shoot the arrow. Shoot. Oh, let me make it shoot. Oh, let me go back just a second. Oh, we already did that one. So we go here. Let me see if it has it. Oh, it doesn't play. But anyway, earlier it played and it would shoot the arrow. But he's the guy that made all these things. Isn't that fascinating? And it says here, he made in Jerusalem engines invented by cunning men to be on the tower upon the bulwark, shoot arrows and great stones. And what does it say happened to him? His name spread abroad, for he was marvelously helped until he was what? Everyone's helping him. But what happens when you become strong and powerful and famous? Pride. Look at this. 2 Chronicles 26, 16 and 17. When he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction. He transgressed against the Lord his God. He went into the temple of the Lord to burn incense upon the altar of incense. And Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests that were also soldiers. The priests were soldiers, in case you didn't know. They're valiant men. And look what it says in verse 18 through 20. They withstood Uzziah the king, and they said to him, it doesn't pertain to you to burn incense to the Lord, but only to the priests, the sons of Aaron, who are consecrated to burn incense to go out from the sanctuary. And now you've trespassed, neither shall it be for your honor from the Lord your God. And then the king was furious, and he had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was furious with the priests, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priests in the house of the Lord from beside the incense altar. Okay, who else offered incense when they weren't supposed to? Nadab and Abihu, they were priests, but they offered strange incense, strange fire, and they were crispy critters. Okay, so you have to follow protocol. Just like electricity. What happens if you don't know what you're doing and you play with electricity? Shock and awe. So now we go to 2 Kings 15, 8 and 9. It is now in the 38th year of Uzziah, or Azariah, king of Judah, did Zechariah, the son of Jeroboam, reign over Israel in Samaria for 6 whole months. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his fathers had done. He did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam, who made Israel to sin. Okay, so let's go back to the timeline here. All right, here we are. And here is Zechariah. Now, do you know what's interesting? Does anyone know who his great-great-grandpa was? Okay, if you remember Jehu? Okay, Jehu's the one who killed the king of Judah, killed the king of Israel. He became king, and God said, because you've been zealous and you've gotten rid of all of the Baal prophets, you and your generation is going to be king to the 4th generation. He was the 4th generation. But God says, while your son's going to be kings for 4 generations, it doesn't mean they're going to be king for a long time. Okay, so Zechariah was the last of that generation. He only lasts 6 months, and then he's killed by Shallum, who's only reigning for 1 month, and then he's killed by Mehanim. So the kings of Israel, they would all kill each other to become king. The kings of Judah was all generational. Okay, but you can see they're flying through kings here. You'll see in 2 Kings 15:10, it says, Shallum, the son of Jabesh, he conspired against him and killed him and slew him. And then in verse 13, Shallum, the son of Jabesh, began to reign in the 39th year of Uzziah, and he got to reign a full month. Wow! And then in verse 14, Mehanim, the son of Gadi, went up from Tirzah and came to Samaria, and he smote Shallum and killed him, and then he became king. And so now we're on him, and I'm going to jump to the next cycle, 50-year cycle. You'll see what happens as we read here. Okay, and then Menahem slept with his fathers, and we have Pekahiah, his son, reigned in his stead in the 50th year of Azariah, king of Judah. Pekahiah, the son of Mehanim, began to reign over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 2 years. And he also did that which is evil in the sight of the Lord, departing not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. And then in 2 Kings 15, I'm going to go backwards a minute, because Kings is not written in order. Jotham, the king's son, was over the house, because Uzziah was a leper until he died, remember? And so his son Jotham is kind of ruling, and he was judging the people, And then it says the rest of the acts of Azariah or Uzziah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And so he died. They buried him in the city of David, and Jotham, his son, reigned in his stead. That's why you'll notice the gold crown. It says Jotham up there. Let me see if this thing is working. Turn this on. Boop. Is that working? Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, right there. So Jotham reigns in his stead. Okay, then what do we find? Okay. It says, so Jotham, this is 2 Kings 15, 5 through 7. Jotham, the king's son, was over the house. He judged the people, and he reigned in his stead. And so now we go down to 2 Kings 15, 25. Then it says there's a Pekah, as in peekaboo. I'm kidding. Pekah. He was the son of Remaliah, a captain of his. He conspired against him and smote him in Samaria, right in the palace of the king's house, with Argob and Ariah and 50 men of the Gileadites, and killed him, and he reigned in his room. In his place. 2 Kings 15, 27 to 28. So now in the 52nd year of Azariah, king of Judah, Pekah, the son of Remaliah, began to reign over Israel and Samaria, and he reigned 20 years. He does also that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, departing not from the sins of who? Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. We're going to see a pattern here. And now look at 2 Kings 15, 29. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, here comes Tiglath-Pileser. He is the king of Assyria, and he starts conquering all the cities in Samaria, northern Israel. And what does he do? He takes them captive to Assyria. Remember, you hear about all the northern tribes being taken captive into Assyria? That happened several times. This is the beginning of it. Well, look what happens in 2 Kings 15:30. Hoshea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah and kills him and reigns in his stead in the 20th year of Jotham. So you can see on the screen here. Oops, let me go back. No, come back. Let me go here. Okay, so here's Hoshea. All right. He ends up killing Pekah, and so he ends up reigning. And look at this. It says in the 20th year of Jotham, which is, here's Jotham. So you can see on my timeline, everything matches up. And look at this. It says in the second year of Pekah, the king of Israel began Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, to reign. He was 25 years old, and he reigns 16 years. You can see there he's 25 and he reigns 16 years. And then look at this. Jotham, he ends up sleeping with all the rest of his fathers, and he was buried. And now Ahaz, and here's Ahaz. So now Ahaz, his son, reigns in his stead. If you will notice, let me go through here. If they're a good king, they get a happy face. If they're a bad king, they get a mad face. Okay. Now, what do we see in 2 Kings 16, 1 and 2? In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. And he was only 20 years old, and he reigned 16 years. And it says he did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord, like David his father. Ahaz was bad boy. Look what it says. He was, this is so horrible. This is the king of Judah. And look at 2 Kings 16, 3 and 4. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel. He's the king of Judah. He made his own son to pass through the fire to Molech. He was worshiping Molech. And he would take his firstborn son and kill them, offering him to Molech, according to the abominations of the heathen whom the Lord had cast out from before the children of Israel. And then he also he sacrifices and burns incense in the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. Do you know who his son was? Who was Ahaz's son? Hezekiah, which tells us Hezekiah was not his firstborn, because his firstborn was offered up to Molech. Okay, and so now let's look at 2 Kings 16:5. Then Rezin, he's the king of Aram, and look what the king of Aram does. He joins Pekah, who's the king of Israel, and they go to war against Jerusalem. So here you have the northern tribes joining the king of Assyria to destroy Jerusalem and the tribe of Judah. What is going to happen? Well, what do you think Ahaz does? Here he has the king of Aram coming against him. So look at verse 7 and 8 of 2 Kings 16. He sends messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, who just took all the northern tribes, and says, why don't you come down here and help me? Okay. And Ahaz, what does he do? The king of Judah takes all the silver, all the gold that was found in the house of the Lord. He raids the temple and in the treasures of his own house, and he sent it for a present to the king of Syria so he would help him fight the king of Israel and the king of Aram. But let's jump over to 2 Chronicles and look at this story. It says, because of that, the Lord God delivered him into the hand of the king of Aram. And they smote him and carried away of his great multitude of captives and brought them all to Damascus. He was also delivered into the hand of the king of Israel, who smote him with a great slaughter. It says, for Pekah, the son of Remaliah, slew in Judah 120,000 people in one day. All of them valiant men, because they had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. And then back in 2 Chronicles, it says, at this time is when Ahaz sent the king of Assyria, Tiglath-Pileser, to help him. But let's go and look back to Kings now. And it says, when he went to Damascus to meet the king of Assyria, he saw an altar there in Damascus. And so King Ahaz loved the altar he made, and he sent to Jerusalem to the priest the fashion of the altar, the pattern according to all the workmanship, and he made the priest build an altar just like it, the one he saw in Damascus. And so he made it, and so when King Ahaz comes back from Damascus, he saw the altar, and the king drew near to the altar, and he offered. He doesn't want to offer anything on the altar of God. He wants to have a different altar. Why? He doesn't think the God in that temple is helping him. He's got to offer to the God of Damascus, because obviously Tiglath-Pileser is doing really good. So his God is going to help me win the battle. And so what do we find in 2 Chronicles as we read about this story? They each tell a little different story. So Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, came to Ahaz, but he distressed him and didn't even help him. Even though he gave him all the gold from the temple, all of the gold from the king's house, Tiglath-Pileser goes, thank you very much, and then he tries to subdue him. It says, Ahaz stripped the house of the Lord and the house of the king and the princes and gave unto the king of Assyria, but what? It didn't help him. And in the time of his distress, did he act even more treacherously against the Lord? Yeah, the same King Ahaz. What did he do? He sacrificed to the gods of Damascus, which smote him. And he said, because the gods of the king of Aram helped them, I'll sacrifice to them and maybe he'll help me. Not. Isn't this crazy? And so Ahaz slept with his fathers. He was buried with his fathers. And now Hezekiah, his son, reigns in his stead. Okay, so now we're down here. Here is Hezekiah, who's 25 years old, and he reigns 29 years. So let's look at 2 Kings 17, verse 1 through 6. It's in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah. This is when Hoshea, the son of Elah, began to reign in Samaria over Israel, and he reigned 9 years. But look at this. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. But look at this. Tiglath-Pileser has been overthrown. Now, I'm not sure if he was overthrown or died, but now there's a new king named Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and he conquered the northern tribes, and Hosea became his servant, and he brought him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in the king of Israel, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and offered no present to the king of Assyria as he had been doing every year. Therefore, the king of Assyria shut him up, bound him in prison, and then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it for 3 years. And then in the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria. So we see there was one Assyrian captivity by Tiglath-Pileser. Then there's another captivity of northern Israel under Shalmaneser. And now look at 2 Kings 17, verse 13 through 18. Look at this. Yet the Lord forewarned Israel. God always forewarns. You know, don't play in the street. How many times do I have to tell you, don't play in the street? Okay. And look at this. He warned them in Judah. He warned both Israel and Judah by the hand of how many prophets? Every prophet, every seer, saying, turn from your evil ways, keep my commandments and my statutes according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by the hand of my servants, the prophets. Then he says, notwithstanding, they would not hear. They hardened their neck like the neck of their fathers, who did not believe in the Lord their God. They rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies wherewith he testified against them. And they went after things of nothing, and they became nothing after the nations that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them that they should not do like them. They forsook all the commandments of the Lord their God. They made molten images, 2 calves. They made an Asherah. They worshipped all the host of heaven. They served Baal. And look at this. They caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire to Molech. They used divination, enchantments. They gave themselves over to do that which was evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him. So the Lord was very angry with Israel. He moved them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. Okay, I'm going to give you a test. Who was the first king to offer their children to Molech in the fire? Solomon. Most people think Solomon was a wise king. He was the stupidest king on earth. Okay, and he was the first one to offer his children. So the other kings say, well, if it's good enough for Solomon, it's good enough for us. Okay, that is pretty bad. But look at this. God not only warned them once or twice, but constantly, over and over. But what did they do? They discarded his commandments. Well, that is why today we are not ones that want to discard the commandments. So look what happens here. This is in 2 Kings. Chapter 17, verse 24 through 28. The king of Assyria, this is just crazy, brought men from Babylon and from all these other towns and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. So what these kings would do, they would take the people they conquered and move them to another country, and the people in another country they conquered, they moved them over to this country, so they had no bearings. Okay, they had no idea. Well, back then, they thought every country had its own god. There were many gods. There's 100 countries, there's 100 gods. And so what happens, he transports them to Israel, but God sends lions and tigers and bears, oh my, to kill them. And they go, oh no, we don't know how to serve the God of this land. We need to go back and grab some of those people we took and put them back over into Israel so they can teach the people how to serve the God of that land. That's what it says. Look at this. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there, they look, oh, this is huge. It says, what did it say? They feared not the Lord. Therefore, the Lord sent lions, which killed some of them. And so now they spoke to the king of Assyria. And they said, the nations which you carried away and placed in the cities of Samaria, they don't know the manner of the God of the land. Therefore, he has sent lions among them, and behold, they're killing them because they don't know the manner of the God of the land. And so the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry there one of the priests whom you brought from there, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the God of that land. So one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and they taught them how they should what? Okay, tell me this. How do you fear the Lord? What does it mean to fear the Lord? To be afraid and shaking your boots? Oh, there's the God. No. Reverence, respect, do what he says. Okay, follow the precepts. This next verse is going to be mind-blowing. Are you buckled in? Do you have your shoulder straps on? Look at 2 Kings chapter 17, verses 32 through 34. I'm going to go real slow. So they what? They feared the Lord and made unto them from among themselves their own priests of the high places, who sacrificed for them in the house of the high places. Well, wait a minute. If they feared the Lord, aren't they supposed to go to the temple in Jerusalem? And now look again. It says the second time, what did they do? They feared the Lord, but what did they do? Wait a minute. You can fear the Lord, but do your own thing? Think about that. A lot of people go, well, I know God. God knows me. I fear the Lord, but I'm going to do my own thing. That is scary to me. It says not only did they fear the Lord, but serve their own gods after the manner of the nations from among whom they had been carried away. Unto this day they do after the former manners. And look now, they really don't fear the Lord. Here it said they feared the Lord. There he's talking about in their own minds. They feared the Lord. But now we see they don't fear the Lord. They don't follow after the statutes, the ordinances, or after the Torah, after the commandment which the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, who he named Israel. Now, if you look back up at the screen here, I'm going to undo, and undo. We find, let's see, here, if you look over here, here Israel is carried into captivity. That's in 2 Kings, all right, 15. And then this is by Tiglath-Pileser. Here is by Shalmaneser. Okay, and this happened during the kings of Judah, Hezekiah. Now, Hezekiah is ruling here, and right here, this is when Sennacherib is now the head of Assyria instead of the other two guys. And this is the year 185,000 Assyrians die. Here's the verses that talk about it. And Hezekiah, at the same time, he's going to die. Isaiah says, you're a dead man. You're going to die. And Hezekiah begs for his life. Please let me live. And so what miracle happens? There was a sundial. Okay? And, of course, light causes a shadow. And Isaiah said, I tell you what, I'll let you know for sure that you're going to be extended 15 years. in a matter of seconds, do you want the shadow to go forward or backwards? Well, how often does the sun or does the earth stop and rotate the other way? And he says, well, going forward's too easy. Let's have the Lord turn the shadow back 15 degrees. Well, that happens. And so he gets to live 15 more years. I think I have the next slide. Yeah, here's the next slide, which takes us to his son, Manasseh, because he was granted 15 more years. Do you know why God had to grant him 15 more years? Why did God have to grant Hezekiah 15 more years? Does anyone know why he had to? He didn't have any kids. There would be no king of Judah. And so it was during that time, and as a matter of fact, if you'll notice, Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, which means he didn't even have a kid for 3 years after the extension of 15 years. So Manasseh was his only child. But what's amazing about this, I've given you this quiz before, so we're going to see if you remember. Who did Hezekiah marry where they had the son Manasseh? Isaiah's daughter, Hephzibah. Now, can you imagine Isaiah, the one who's telling Hezekiah, you get 15 more years? He gives his daughter to Hezekiah for wife. I mean, you would think King Hezekiah as a dad, the daughter of Isaiah as a mom, you got a pretty good couple. But Manasseh was the worst king in all of Israel. Did you know Manasseh killed Grandpa Isaiah and sawed him in half? Manasseh is the one who killed Grandpa Isaiah. He sawed him in half. And then he ended up killing his own children, and he was the worst king in all of history. In all of history. Now, God, he repented, and God kind of, I don't know if God totally forgave him of everything. Okay, matter of fact, I'll show you a verse next week that kind of implies that. I mean, he found some mercy, but oh my goodness. But when it comes to the kings in this cycle, there are no more kings of Israel. It's only the kings of Judah. And we'll be looking at next week into King Manasseh's life. But could you imagine a king at only 12 years old? What a brat. What a brat. I mean, he's almost a teenager. Now, I always heard you should always hire teenagers because they know everything. Just kidding. All right, let's stand. We'll close. We'll give you guys a break. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father King, we just thank you so much for everything that you are teaching us and showing us. And I just pray as always, Lord, that you give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to understand. We thank you, and we're so grateful that you not only want to bless us, but you want to put your name upon us, as you told Aaron to say. Ivarekaka Adonai ve'ishmereka. Ya'er Adonai panavileka vihuneka. Yisa Adonai panavileka v'yasem laka shalom. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And that most wonderful name, Asher, Amen. See you next week.